Bro, listen.
Never in my life associated the word boring with baseball.
We know what's up.
Me?
Yeah.
Famous?
Yeah.
And I'm like giddy over there smiling like, we're about to win this shit.
Did everyone give you crap? Give me a good host story.
You know, I'm not picking it up.
We both love the game.
We talk about it every day.
Can't get enough baseball.
Having some popcorn, you're fooling around your phone.
I'd have to wait in line for 3 hours.
Hang on, because it's about to be a wild ride.
Pitch and Moan, episode 4. We are back with a vengeance. We are ready. I am your host, Courtney Finnicum. And of course, as always, along with my co-host, the great Jonny Gomes. Jonny, how are you doing?
Pitching and moaning. Can't wait. We got a lot of action, a lot of buffoonery out there, a lot of upside, a lot of downside. So, let's go ahead and dive into some action.
Yeah, we have a lot to pitch and moan about. We have a lot to break down. I would be remiss to say that we have been brought our 4th episode of Pitch and Moan by Wasabi Technologies, the greatest, of course. We love them. They're supporting us like we support them. I got to support it. A lot of buffoonery with Wasabi Technologies. We love that.
Big shout out to Wasabi, right?
Love that. Love Wasabi. But yeah, we are here to pitch and moan. We have officially crossed over into the second half of the season.
Yeah.
Which is incredible to think about. I mean, we were literally just on opening day talking about our opening day memories, and all of a sudden it's July, and we've got the first half complete.
Time flies when you're having fun, right?
That's it. And we always do have fun with baseball. That is for sure.
Yeah.
I think really who better than you and I to talk about what we've liked so far in the first half, what we haven't liked, because this wouldn't be Pitch and Moan without at least pitching and moaning about something going on in the baseball world.
Correct.
And of course, what we are looking forward to in the second half. So I'm just going to throw this out there right now of something that I've really enjoyed so far this year. And that has been an unexpected emergence of these aces that you would never think would be aces this year. I want to call out my guy, Reynaldo Lopez of the Atlanta Braves. I got to tell you, he was with the White Sox originally. He always had good stuff, could never quite put it together until, of course, he enters the Atlanta Braves pitching lab. And then all of a sudden, this guy has a 1.70 ERA in July.
Yeah.
Like, how did this happen? I mean, I just think I'm so happy for him. This is a guy that has been up and down in the bullpen, starter, and now he's easily the best bargain of the offseason so far.
Yeah, how about it? I mean, we could potentially have the first 4 or 5 pitchers in the All-Star game all on 1-year deals.
Literally.
Right?
Yep.
The $100 million, the $200 million, $300 million guy, we might not see any of them. Right? It's going to be all these dudes going in year 5, a couple of year 6s. These are all guys that are just, hitting the ground running unexpectedly. They won't tell you that, of course, but I mean, it's going to make the offseason real interesting. These ARB cases real interesting, and these races real interesting. And the other thing with all these guys, right? There's talks about, probably 5 guys that have the opportunity to finish the season sub 2 ERA.
Yeah.
Which would be real cool to start watching here pretty soon.
And honestly, the only silver lining of my wretched White Sox season has been Garrett Crochet.
Yep.
Garrett Crochet is another unexpected ace where guy came back from injuries. We weren't really sure if he was going to be a bullpen guy, if he was going to be a starter. And here he is literally, mowing guys down every 5th day and being literally the only silver lining to that team. And of course, when that happens, there's rumors about potential trades and, might as well the Sox just strike when the iron's hot. But it's been really cool to see him emerge as this top ace unexpectedly. Same with a Tanner Houck, in Boston. I mean, he kind of emerged as the guy in that rotation. I know Boston fans are loving him. Hockamania, they're loving that. So it's been cool to see guys that you would never really think of becoming aces of their staffs.
Yeah, I'll tell you which has been really cool to watch so far is one on the East Coast, one on the West Coast. And that's two of the best players in the game, like showcasing their talents. And that's Ohtani and Judge, right? With Ohtani, what he's doing in LA, first year of an absolute monster contract, and then Judge up there in New York. I mean, I'm really excited. I mean, these are two guys with OPS over 1,000, two guys hitting over 300. And these guys are must-watch TV and just have the organizations of the Dodgers and the Yankees on their back. It's really cool to see these two guys go head-to-head.
And two big markets, too, New York and LA. Like you said, both on opposite coasts, both have these rabid fan bases. It has been cool to see that. And kind of on that same note, too, of something that is exciting and also something to look forward to in the second half has been this new rivalry of the Yankees and the Orioles.
Yeah.
I mean, we saw that series last week. It got very chippy very quickly.
Yeah.
And when you're talking about Aaron Judge, on the other side of the Orioles, you got Gunnar Henderson, who, as of right now, those are the top two leading candidates for AL MVP. And
let me tell you about this Gunnar Henderson dude. Wow. Right? This dude is exciting to watch. And everyone's jumping off Paul Skeen's mustache. This dude has a majestic mustache going too. I want to get behind that mustache. Absolutely.
So, you're a bearded guy, Jonny, right?
Yeah.
You've always rocked the beard during your career. Why have you never thought about rocking the mustache? Now that you see this mustache power going on, I mean, that might be a good look for you.
This beard holds more champagne than just a mustache, right?
Oh, that's
so that's
good.
why, right?
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
I like that. Yep.
True story.
Well, maybe Paul and Gunnar, they can take some advice from you and, start growing the beard out instead once their teams start consistently winning more.
That's right. I'll tell you another thing that's, which is cool, is I love all three division leaders in the American League, right? I like Seattle, I like Cleveland, and I like Baltimore. I like how they're playing. I like how they're pitching. I like how their fan bases are back. And they're just exciting teams to watch. They really are. They hit, they run, they pitch, they slide, they take the extra base. It's really fun baseball to watch those three teams right now.
And I completely agree. And I feel like one of my favorite teams to watch is in the AL Central, and a team that I feel is just not getting the proper recognition that they deserve. And that's the Cleveland Guardians. Yeah. I mean, as of right now, they're 51-28. That makes them the best record in the American League. First-year manager, they literally had a Hall of Fame manager retire in Terry Francona. Stephen Vogt, respected, but never coached, never managed in the major leagues. All of a sudden, he's managing this incredibly successful, hot team to start the first half. The emergence of Stephen Kwan. I mean, guys hitting 373, doing incredible things in the field. David Fry out of nowhere. They lose Bieber to start, and in a horrible, again, UCL issue, which we'll get into a little bit later. And they emerge with one of the best bullpens in the league, if not the best bullpen in the league.
And how about they got brothers on the team, right? The two brothers. How
two
cool
brothers.
Is that? They're just rocking and rolling together. And again, I mean, we run through all these names right here, and we just still don't go to Ramirez, right? When's this dude going to be the best dude on the planet? Switch hitter, gold at third, the whole deal. I mean, he still doesn't get the love that he needs. I mean, he needs to be like at the top of the top.
I could not agree more. I was having this conversation right before we jumped on, and I said, why isn't Jose Ramirez getting any kind of MVP talk? Aaron Judge, obviously incredible. That's, that's a given. Henderson, awesome to see. But Jose Ramirez is third in that, 100%. I mean, this guy's on pace to hit 43 home runs and 150 RBIs right now. Like, this is a guy that needs to be talked about more, and he's just not. And this entire Guardians team needs to be talked about more. Yes, it's the city of Cleveland. It's not New York. It's not LA. But, man, they've just been quietly kicking ass, and good for them. Good for Stephen Vogt.
Yeah, they're exciting to watch. I'll tell you what, though, there's some things I don't like, right? We got
always.
And I think to start with, I don't like because the upside was so huge, and that's just the team of the Toronto Blue Jays. I just don't like what's going on up there. Not that I don't like them. I just don't like what's going on. I mean, those players are so exciting to watch. They're so good. It was so cool to watch, like the bloodlines, the change of the helm and the manager, and everything's great. They revamped the ballpark. It's one of the coolest ballparks and updated. Yep. And I just don't like what they're going through because, played for the Sox or whatever, AL East. But, man, it just sucks. It just sucks what they're going through. You're starting shortstops talking about getting traded. Vlad talked about getting traded. When you think at this time, these guys should have all had 10-year deals and been into the playoffs the last 4 straight years and AL champion and going to the World Series, and it just hasn't worked out. I don't know. I don't know if they pulled a plug, but I just don't like what's going on up there because they're really exciting to watch, or should be.
Well, so what is your gut telling you about the deadline when it comes to Toronto? Because like you said, there's guys talking about being traded, which is always the case this time of year, right? Everyone's talking about that. So what is your gut telling you right now? Do guys get moved or do they stay pat and try to build? What are you thinking about Toronto?
I think you're okay either way. I really are. But just knowing if you do trade, I wouldn't trade one. I guess you'd call it blowing up because you could probably get 12 to 15 players back for 3 dudes.
Absolutely.
Right? That just skyrockets you in the top 5 in, the farm systems. You really have that power to overhaul your whole organization, not by trading just an Ohtani or trading just a Soto, right? If you're to trade 3 to 4 dudes, you can get 12 to 15 guys back, probably, maybe 8 in the top 10, prospect list. So yeah, they are definitely in the driver's seat. And next year, if they're all back, you're probably going to pick them, 1, 2, or 3 in the division because they have that resume.
And that's exactly right, too. Just because this team is having an issue this year doesn't mean that they can't turn around next year.
Yep.
Look at the New York Mets right now, right?
Yep.
They had a terrible year last year. And all of a sudden, they're 1 game out of the NL wild card right now?
Yeah.
That's how quickly things can change.
Yeah.
But we want to continue pitching and moaning because that is what we do best.
Yeah.
So one thing that has really upset me about this first half has been, of course, the elephant in the room when it comes to baseball right now, and that's all these Tommy Johns.
Yeah.
Losing guys like Shane Bieber, Spencer Strider, Perez on the Marlins. The list can go on and on and on. There has been a ton of these, and they're continuing to happen. Kyle on the Orioles just went down. Sandoval on the Angels just went down. This is all continuing to happen, and that's really just been demoralizing because it's these injuries happen, and they're horrible injuries, and MLB just kind of shrugs their shoulders and moves on.
Yeah. You can talk about like the NFL, right? There's going to be concussions probably every game, and, guys are going to suffer from them. It's a part of the game. Tommy John is a part of the game, right? The human body's not meant to do stuff over our head, and you have to do it every single game. And it's tough on your elbow. There was as many Tommy Johns this year as there was in the whole 1990s, right? That's alarming, right? It's alarming what's happening. And that's another thing that, moan about is all these pitchers that we don't get to watch, right? These are guys that drive revenue. These guys are drive the fan base. And I do have an inning in the show, so I can talk a little bit about pitching. But why are these injuries happening? Absolutely no idea. But what I think, can we knock on Harvard's door or Yale's door or, Vanderbilt and just be like, hey, can you guys do a study, right? Can you guys go figure this out? I need to see some data. I need to get some answers. I need to see these nerds nerd out and be like, let's do this. Let's not do this. Is it the grip? Is it the sticky stuff? Is it the pitch clock? Is it the weighted balls? Is it what it's sure not is the 100 pitch count, right? Which is the holy grail. Don't go over 100. They're still blowing out at under 100. But yeah, let's release the dogs on this. Let's go knock on the nerds' doors and figure it out.
And honestly, that's what the NFL had to do about these concussions, right? They had Chris Nowinski step up from Harvard, total nerd, athletic nerd, but still a nerd nonetheless. And he has been single-handedly pushing through all these new concussion protocols for the NFL and figuring out and doing this research on guys' brains and what happens to the brain during a concussion. Why can't we get that for these UCL injuries? Why can't, like you said, a nerd from Harvard step up and take a look at wear and tear on a pitcher's elbow. I mean, to me, that's got to be the next step.
Yeah, we got to empower the nerds. I'm on team nerd. Let's figure it out.
I'm not always on team nerd when it comes to analytics in baseball, but for this, I am.
Yeah.
This I am.
Yeah. I'll tell you the other Moan deal that I got going on is, man, I would hate to win 105 games in the American League East and have to go to a wild card game. Right?
Yeah.
That's what it's going to look like. There's going to be 105, 104 to 106 win season. And then, boom, you're going to have to bump into Kansas City and anything can happen. If I win 105 games in a season, I need a bye. I need a 5-game series. I need something. You just roll all 162 and you're like, all right, wild card time.
Yeah. And I got to imagine that at some point there is going to be some more pushback on that, right? Because that is what's going to start happening. When you have an AL East, like a powerhouse, like an AL East, and you're going to have a Baltimore or even a Yankees or Boston, even with the way this crazy division is going, that has won 105 games. They don't even get to host a playoff game, and it's like, then they're going to run into a hot team and that's the end of it. Like you said, there needs to be a 5-game series at least, at the very least.
I mean, I don't know if the Sox can win 100, but, they could go in the mid-90s and just not even make the playoffs.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah. So we'll see. I don't like it, but we'll see.
Well, and another pitching and moaning thing that I have an issue with in general, besides the Tommy Johns, is injuries in general in baseball. You mentioned that these guys, these stars, these are revenue drivers. Putting my business hat on, this is the markability factor of a team. When you lose a star, you're losing that revenue and putting asses in the seats, basically. And it sucks when you're losing Acuna almost every other year, it seems. That hurts. So that has been a little demoralizing, seeing guys going down just in general and losing the star power that MLB needs.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, I think more than, the other 4 major sports, hockey might be a little bit different, but this whole league and business is ran around superstars in big market clubs, right? So these big players, they move the needle in a lot of ways.
Right. And it's when you're losing that and, someone like the Chicago White Sox, for instance, when they're losing, every single quote unquote star player that they have. And all of a sudden, no offense, you got Robbie Grossman out in center field instead of Luis Robert. Yeah. It's already tough enough coming out to that ballpark. And, let's look at a guy that actually is marketable and fun to watch instead of, a AAA center fielder.
Yeah, I mean, great. Cheers to the guys that pass the torch and get their opportunity. But, let's get the superstars on the field.
Agreed.
Yeah.
So, can't all be pitching and moaning with us. We do like to do that. But we are fast approaching now, after the All-Star break, officially second half season upon us. What is something that you are looking forward to the most out of the second half?
I'll give you 3 things. One, maybe not everyone's in tune about it or this or that. I actually went to Omaha for my son's tournament, went to the College World Series. I'm looking forward to the draft, right? I'm really looking forward to the draft. And this draft, there's a lot of position players, a lot of bats, a lot of really good bats. Now the draft, let's look at Texas Rangers right now when you got Wyatt Langford, who last year was in the College World Series, and now he's hitting 6th in the big leagues. These guys are flying through the system. And I think the draft is going to be really, really important for all 30 clubs, as it has been in the past. Another thing I'm looking forward to, I think we're getting pretty close on both leagues. Finally, some Triple Crown talk, right?
I like
Triple
that.
Crown talk, Judge and Ohtani as it sits right now. And it's been a while since we've had Triple Crown talks. We have the 40, 50 home run guy that bats 200. We have the RBI guy, but it's hitting 280. I mean, these guys are putting it all on the field.
And honestly, that is cool to see. Like you said, the Triple Crown talk doesn't happen often, but last Triple Crown winner off the top of your head.
I think Miguel Cabrera.
It was Miguel Cabrera. I knew you would know. Yep, Miguel. So that is a special thing. And that's something that does need to be talked about a little bit more, is the fact that we are fast approaching that.
Yeah.
Now, you were in Omaha, you said.
Yeah.
Who did you see that really stood out to you? Is there anyone that stood out to you that could, oh, this guy could be, number one with a bullet? Is there anyone there that really stood out to you?
Well, I think there's like 5 guys, and it's really unique. And the funny thing is, maybe the best team in the big leagues this year, the Guardians, have the first overall pick.
That's that.
Think
Yep,
about
you are
that
correct.
with the lottery, right? That's happened this year. These guys have a chance to go deep into the playoffs and then get the first pick of this year's draft. How wild is that, right?
Yep.
But I'll tell you which is real interesting, and even going through the amateur levels and, traveling around with Magnus, is the Ohtani effect that I call it, is there is a lot of two-way players, right? There's a lot of two-way players. Like the first baseman for Florida right now, this Jock guy, throws 100 miles per hour from the left side, was in the top 4 of home runs. He's a stud on both sides. There's a guy, Bryce Rayner, who's in high school, throws like 98 off the mound and is probably the best shortstop and the best hitter. So the two-way effect, and I think this is going to be really cool to watch in the draft.
So, and that is actually a really good point, because the Ohtani effect, right? That's a real thing.
Yeah.
Do you, after seeing that and seeing these younger guys kind of going through it, is that a concern about injuries potentially in your mind? How does that, what do you think about that?
Well, I truly think that we don't know. So one, is it, an opportunity, a higher risk for injury? Sure. But it's also a higher upside of a superstar. Yep. Right? Look what Ohtani got from doing it, right?
Yep.
So let's say it can't happen again. Ohtani broke the ice. He broke the walls down. He kicked them down. So why can't it happen again? We'll see. So higher risk for injury? Probably. Higher risk for superstar status? Definitely.
Definitely. Yep. I could not agree more.
Yeah.
Another thing that I'm really excited about for the second half is this NL wildcard race.
Yeah.
I think it's really cool for a couple reasons. One, it gets more fan bases involved, more fan bases excited. And that NL wildcard right now, there's 7-8 teams that could easily, with a hot, couple weeks, even a hot week, all of a sudden they're leading that NL wildcard. St. Louis, Arizona, Washington even, Pittsburgh, the Mets, all these teams are all bunched up, and at any point, any one of those teams could slide into the playoffs and do some damage in the playoffs.
Yep.
So that is actually really something to pay attention to, and a good thing to have moving forward, just because it gets the fans excited. It gets more fans excited. When you're a 500 team in August, the fans are bummed. You're like, okay, there's no shot of getting into the playoffs. Now there is. Now there legitimately is. And I think that's cool.
Yeah, coming right after the All-Star break, and even right now, everyone's watching the scoreboard, right? Like literally every game matters, and you have to play like that. If you're on the wrong side of a 2-for-8, well, the other team's on the right side of a 2-for-8, right?
Yep.
And a 2-for-8 is a huge swing. So it's really good. And then talking about the trade deadline, I was actually really excited about the trade deadline and still am, but who's really out there, right? Like who's like Max Scherzer, Verlander, Soto, Bellinger, like all these. No, none of these guys are moving, right? There's only like 4 teams that are really in sell mode right now. So I'll be curious to see who does actually sell. But there's truly not big chips out there. Imagine what San Diego got ahead of the game and went and got Dylan Cease. If Dylan Cease was still over there, he would have 15 teams knocking on their door.
100%. And, as a Chicagoan, I am obviously paying attention to the Garrett Crochet race potentially, right? Like we talked about earlier, this guy has emerged as the ace of that rotation and a pretty damn good pitcher in general. So I look at a team like the Baltimore Orioles that could really use some pitching with the UCL injuries that they've had and guys going down. And I think, God, the White Sox wanted to strike when the iron was hot right now. They could trade Crochet for just a crap load of prospects in that incredible Orioles system and set them up for, years to come, hopefully. So there is potential in that. But like you said, trade deadline is usually pretty disappointing in MLB. You don't get The Juan Soto's being moved. You're not going to get that this year. Pete Alonso, I can't see that, especially now that the Mets are right in the middle of it. So who's really out there? How exciting is this?
Right.
Time will tell.
Yeah, I don't know. But I think there are some teams, especially in the National League. I got two in the American League that could, if they got some help, they like skyrocket, right? Crochet, could you imagine if he went to Pittsburgh?
Exactly. Yep.
Forget about it, right? You got Jones, Skeen, and Crochet. Like, wow. The Mets, why not? They traded Max and Verlander for those prospects last year, so they're coming. And then they have some debt or some prospects to trade away again to get whoever they want. I don't know. What's Seattle do, right? Seattle, they're leading the division right now, and if they were to go out and get a bat,
exactly.
Cow, right?
Well, I mean, think about Seattle with like a Luis Robert. That's been rumored, with that pitching, and all of a sudden you slide in a Robert and he can stay healthy. I mean, that right there, good luck. I mean, that's going to be that could really open some eyes. Yeah,
and I mean, there's also the diamond in the roughs too, right? Look at feeling like Marsh, right? Like Marsh was kind of struggling over there in Anaheim, and they traded Marsh for Ohapi, it was a win-win, and they weren't superstars at the time. They weren't, but now they're cornerstone pieces. Look at like Max Muncy, who was left to rot in Oakland, and the Dodgers wouldn't grab that guy, right? So I think we're going to find some diamond in the roughs versus the superstars moving.
And I completely agree with that. And another potential interesting team that I think is going to start to emerge a little bit in the second half are the Arizona Diamondbacks. Mm-hmm. And I know that team is near and dear to you. You live in Arizona. You mm-hmm. see them. If they can get their pitching figured out or even make a move or two, that team has potential to really be strong in the second half. The way they're playing now, I think if they can get some health, if they can get some, pitching, that's a team to pay attention to in the second half.
Yeah, man, they got bit by the bug, right? So you got 5 starters. You got Merrill Kelly out, Zach Gallen out, Montgomery not doing as well as he should be doing with a 6 ERA, and Rodriguez, their big free agent signing, out as well. So they got to dig down to that farm system, and hey, they went to the World Series with 86 wins last year. So can they do it again? Sure. And they got that American League. They got that pedigree. So, once they start sniffing that playoffs, we'll see how it happens. But yeah, as you look from going to the World Series to this year, on paper, they got better. They did. They went and got a big third baseman. They got Jock Peterson. Perdomo was hurt for a while. He's back. But yeah, you got to keep an eye on them. But, every once in a while, you just got to, at 4th and 10, you got to punt because everyone got hurt.
4th and 10, I like that. 4th and 10, you got to punt. It's the truth. Yeah. Another team that I think is interesting, as usual, you can never count them out, are those Houston Astros.
Yeah.
I mean, they're streaking right now. They're getting right back in the middle of that AL West race. You can never, ever count that team out. It's kind of crazy. I mean, everyone was like, oh, that's it. This is the year they're finally done. There's rumors. Are they going to be sellers at the deadline? Are they going to get rid of a Bregman? I mean, what's going to go on with them? And all of a sudden, they're right back in it. Do you feel like, and I like Seattle too. I think if I had to flip a coin right now, Seattle is also my AL West division winner. Yep. But do you think Houston is going to start making it even more interesting in that division?
Well, they need to get that left side of the infield dialed in with Bregman and Pena, right? They need to get them, hitting the ball out of the ballpark, right? They really do. And Kyle Tucker, obviously, off to a huge start, and then he goes down. But they got some other guys that are popping up there. But I tell you what, for 100 years of this game, pitching wins. Pitching wins. And Seattle has some dogs up there, and they're pitching. But if Houston gets that left side of the infield dialed in, not until, that ship sinks are they out of it.
That's it. And I could not agree more. I mean, it was shocking the way they started. It didn't make any sense with how they started. And all of a sudden they started to figure out it a little bit. And like you just said, you can never count that team out. They have way too, that core, that veteran core. They know what they're doing. There's good players there. Jose Altuve, Kyle Tucker, Bregman, can never count those guys out.
Yeah.
One thing that I do want to pitch and moan quickly about, and I feel like you're going to have some good insights to this being a former player, on a very personal level, it has been very sad for me to see guys like Jose Abreu, DJ LeMahieu, really respected baseball players that just don't have it anymore. Now, it's been sad because those are two fundamentally sound, respected leaders. And, Jose's already been DFA'd. There's rumors about the Yankees eating that contract and DFAing DJ LeMahieu. Now, as a former player, how did that kind of make you feel when you realized, God, I might be getting to the end here? Was that always a freaky thing for you, or how did you handle it?
I was always, I would say admiral of dudes that can walk off on their own, because this game slaps you in the face overnight, right? Your injuries take longer. Every single year there's a draft and they're trying to replace you. Guys that can, go off on their own, it's very, very rare.
Yep.
With Abreu, I don't know why no one's talking about it, but I would have had him on the White Sox by midnight, right?
Thank you.
Why wouldn't he have going to the White Sox?
I mean, that team's going to lose 120 games. Bring him back for his farewell tour and call it a day. Come on.
League minimum.
Correct.
Right?
Yep.
Gosh, yeah. I mean, that sucks that he couldn't go back there. But, yeah, man, I mean, they still cut the grass. They still cut the grass and rake the dirt. It doesn't matter who's there. And this game will slap you in the face before you even know it.
And it just happens so quickly. It's crazy. I mean, like you said, very few guys get that farewell tour, like a Mariano Rivera or Derek Jeter. Guys don't get that. And it's just sad to see that. Sad to see guys that have been so well respected, great players, just kind of, not the same anymore.
And it's the game. You're going to see that every year. You're going to see a dude in the off season being like, "Oh, I don't know why no one's grabbing me. I had a good year." Yeah, you're 35, right?
Exactly.
I mean, data shows, you go down fast. And the guys that play past that, absolute superstars.
That's it. Yep. Well, as always, we did a lot of pitching and moaning here. Real quick, who in your, again, gut instinct,
fire away.
If you had to choose 3 teams in the NL wild card that is going to make the playoffs, who do you have?
Brewers in the NL wild card as it stands right now. So I like, who I like, and it's exciting to watch with Ellie De La Cruz because he's in the highlights every night. It's the Reds.
I agree. Yep.
I do. And if they got some help on the offensive side, someone that can just hit the ball in the air and it goes out, I really like them. And, St. Louis, I mean, you got Paul Goldschmidt, Arenado, Lance Lynn, and Sonny Gray, and their closers is absolutely nailing it right now. They're exciting to watch. But I'm just glad I don't have a horse in the race for any of those teams. I can just sit back and watch this mayhem happen. I think it's great for the game.
Yep. I honestly, and it is great for the game. And if I had to pick right now, I'm going St. Louis, Arizona, and if Pittsburgh gets aggressive at the deadline and gets a bat or two, I'm going Pittsburgh. That's my sleeper. It's my sleeper.
I'm on board. And you know what? It's probably going to change next week.
100%. 100%.
It'll change next week. Yeah.
And we will be here to talk all about it as always.
Yeah.
Well, Jonny, it's been a pleasure as always. Excited to pitch and moan with you continuing throughout the second half. You guys rule.
All right. Be good.
Thank you, Jonny.